All right, so we're awaiting a phone call from Todd Rundgren. Todd Rundgren's rich rock history includes leading the bands Naz and Utopia, as well as charting with solo hits such as Hello, It's Me, Can We Still Be Friends? And you can't go to a sporting event anywhere in North America without hearing this track. It's that's Bang on the Drum All Day, Sherm. You're familiar with that.
Up until a couple of years ago, I had no idea that was him.
Yeah.
I just had no idea who it would be.
Todd's also produced more than 50 records for other artists, including Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell, now ranked as the 5th biggest selling album of all time. On August 26th, Todd released An Evening with Todd Rundgren live at Ridgefield on CD, vinyl, DVD, and Blu-ray. You can buy it at Amazon.com and iTunes. Good morning, Todd. How are you?
Great. How you doing?
We're doing fine. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from New Orleans, as a matter of fact.
Well, are you there on work or what are you doing in New Orleans? And be careful.
I'm not a naif. I've been to New Orleans before. As a matter of fact, I have friends here, so I'm staying with them, and they'll make sure I stay out of trouble.
Well, I know there's a lot of flooding, but thankfully New Orleans, it's all north, I think, isn't it? So I think you're safe for now.
I think it's a little further northwest. Baton Rouge and that particular area. New Orleans has been spared this time.
Yeah.
From all of that water, but you never know.
Yeah. Are you working? Are you there? I know you produce many records for many other artists, so I was just wondering if you're working, perhaps.
Well, I was working last night. I made dinner for all my friends.
Nice.
But I was actually I was doing a fan camp last week in Vermont at the Trapp Family Von Trapp Family Resort. The Von Trapp family is their experience is the basis for the sound of music.
Okay.
So I had a fan camp there, and we cast and produced highlights from the Sound of Music, and everyone was dressed up in Alpen gear and lederhosen, and it was pretty hysterical, I have to say.
Is that your first time?
No, Todd?
My first time
in lederhosen.
Oh, in lederhosen. No, in lederhosen.
No lederhosen for me. I'm the director.
Oh, okay. No, but you've been doing fan camps for a long time, no?
Well, for a while, and it kind of came about in an oblique manner. On my 60th birthday, I just got it into my head to do something weird, and invited any of my fans who could make the trip to come out to Hawaii, where I live now, on the island of Kauai, and come camp on the empty lot next to my house.
Right.
And we would just have, a week 10-day party. There was not a particular structure. We didn't start out with events or anything like that. It's just show up. We'll cook for each other. We'll have a darn good time. And indeed we did. We had a spectacular time. And then at the same time, there was this kind of fan camp movement happening. A lot of artists were holding these events at resorts and lodges and things like that, and a lot of them were very intensely musically oriented.
Yeah,
I know, like Dweezil Zappa did it, long before I did it.
Yeah,
it was having fan camps, and mostly guitar players would show up looking to play faster and faster. And not all of my fans are players, so
yeah,
our fan camp became, a little bit more of a microcosm of the event that we had back in Hawaii.
Okay.
And they've moved around the country. We did a couple up in upstate New York, and then we did one in New Orleans, and we did one out in California. And then finally we wound up with the Von Trapp Family Resort in Vermont. this year.
Yeah.
And where we go from there,
Who knows?
I have no idea.
Todd, when I was in college, I worked summers at a spina bifida camp north of Chicago. And on occasion, there would be a camper that would misbehave, and we'd have to send them home. Have you had to send any band campers home, Todd?
Well, we certainly had to send them, to the box.
Right.
In the sense that, we've had people get out of their hand and they have to spend the night in the box. So,
that's very
but
funny.
that's more of a social, it's more of a social thing than an actual physical thing.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody else pretty well, or they find out very soon.
Right.
And so, if somebody crosses a line, there's pretty much a universal opprobrium for them,
right,
until they get back into line. So
that's very funny.
It isn't as bad as managing, I would say, spina bifida. A bunch of people with spina bifida, but every once in a while, the same thing happens.
It's Todd Rundgren, and his new release is An Evening with Todd Rundgren, live at Ridgefield. Congratulations on the new album. Some of the material on this album hasn't been heard in decades, I'm reading.
Perhaps, or played in decades.
Yeah.
Because just the nature of that particular show was to ideally in any particular evening create a snapshot that went from what people could, the earliest memories people have, what they could recollect, all the way up to the present. So it wasn't necessarily an attempt to be nostalgic as much as trying to maybe give a more even kind of overview to things. Put everything on an equal level, even the more obscure stuff, which my fans like as much as the material that's more familiar to the public at large.
Sure. When you're doing a live show like that and you pull out a piece that you haven't performed in a very long time, do you get a sense from the crowd of their appreciation right away? Does that hit you immediately? Uh-oh. That didn't say.
The problem with social media nowadays is it's hard to surprise people.
Yeah, sure, of course.
So after you've been through the first week of the tour, everybody's told everybody else, what you're doing.
Yeah.
So our way to solve that, amongst other problems like getting bored with the set and that sort of thing, is any particular night we're drawing from a master list of like 50 songs.
Sure, yeah.
And part of that is because we don't want to get bored playing it. And part of it is because a significant percentage of our audience comes to more than one show, and that gives them a chance to hear more of the material than we would play if it was just a set of 25 songs. So about an hour and a half before the show every night, I come up with a new set out of that master list.
Yeah.
And I didn't change the process for this particular recording. This just happens to be another night on the road.
Right, yeah.
With us. But it wouldn't be the same night as the next night on the road or the night that came before that. They're all different. This just happens to be like a body cam shot of what happened that evening.
Hey, when I read that Bruce Springsteen set a new record and performed for 4 hours, just reading that exhausts me. How do you react when you see something like that? 4 hours is crazy.
That's just a personal record for him.
Yeah, right. I know.
Believe me, back in the old days, Utopia could play for 5 hours a night in Asbury Park.
Wow.
And nobody would notice because they were all on some sort of medication at the time. And time had no meaning back then.
I love it.
Also, I had a band with 3 keyboard players, and every one of us would take a 10-minute solo on every song.
I love it.
It would just go on forever.
Yeah. An Evening with Todd Rundgren live.
The Grateful Dead.
Oh, forget it.
I want to talk about a record. Talk about the Grateful Dead. They must have gone some point they must have hit 7 hours or something.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, listen, An Evening with Todd Rundgren live at Richfield's available now. Amazon.com, iTunes. It's on CD, vinyl, DVD, and Blu-ray. Which copy are you going to buy, Todd?
Betamax.
Hey, congrats on the new album, and thank you for coming on and chatting with us. It was fun, Todd. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. All right. There's
Cool guy.
The Todd Rundgren interview.